Cooper Flagg may be off playing in Dallas, but oh my goodness, Cam Boozer is ready and able to make sure the Blue Devils don't miss a beat.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Monday. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And I don't know why I only introduced myself. That was weird, but over there's my good buddy, Andy Patton. And
I thought we were beefing, maybe. I thought we were fighting.
We be beefing. Oh man, I think it's just good. I think I don't even know, but you're joining us at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch to get your Monday going the right way. Andy, I think it's because I'm so giddy because we're a week away from actual college basketball starting, and I'm just like, let's go. Special shout out to all the everydayers joining us, as well as all the members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord. We'd love to see you hang out in there with us a week away from the season starting. That link's in the show notes. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code Locked On College to get $20 off your first purchase right there at Game Time. Andy, I mean, this weekend was insane when it came to exhibition games. And we've got one more high-level one tonight. Arkansas at Memphis. Yes, John Calipari going back to FedEx Forum, going to be electric. And we got a couple more on Thursday, but really it was this past weekend, dude, where it was just insanity. And so, with apologies to so many of the great games and great schools out there, we're just going to hit on 5 of those games, Andy, but all of them pitted top 25 teams against each other. So those 5 games, Andy, that we're talking about today included teams number 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 18, 19, and 25 in the preseason AP poll. Thank you very much. That makes for, like, if this was during the regular season, that would be the best weekend of the entire season. This is insane. So we're eventually going to get to the Bluegrass State where Louisville hosted Kansas, Kentucky hosted Purdue. We'll get to the game in the Delta Center featuring BYU and North Carolina, as well as St. John's and Michigan in Madison Square Garden on Saturday night. But Andy, we're going to start with what most recently happened inside Thompson Bowling Arena. Duke going in, looking a little out physicaled early, as mostly everyone does against Tennessee. But I tell you what, dude, these Blue Devils, they found their way. They figured out, like, oh, we got to be tough here. And they come out late in the second half, beat down the Vols 83-76. And Andy, ain't nowhere else we can start by talking about yet another phenomenal Cam Boozer performance. What did he do?
Cam Boozer was incredible in this game. I mean, he had 24 points, and he wasn't incredibly efficient offensively. We will talk about that. Missed more shots than you'd like to see, certainly. But he had 23 rebounds. 23 rebounds. He played 39 minutes. John Shire threw Cam Boozer out in a true road environment, and that place was loud and rocking. Like, you could tell the fans there were treating it like they would treat a normal regular season game. And they threw Boozer out there for 39 minutes in a contested game all the way throughout, and he goes out and pulls down 23 boards with 24 points. He had 6 assists and a pair of blocks as well. Like we said, not very efficient. He was 6 of 17 just on 2-point attempts, 1 of 3 from 3, 9 of 11 from the line, but he basically had double-doubles in each half. Really, really close to actually doing that. 13 and 15 at halftime, 15 first half rebounds, 11 and 8 in the second half, but it was all Boozer all game long. Absolutely dominating performance from him. And it's incredible to me that he is a freshman. The way that he has a nose for the basketball, the way that he just physically moved Tennessee defenders out of the way. I mean, if you showed me that tape and told me that Duke was playing a D3 school or even like a low major Division I school, I'd be like, okay, maybe that makes sense. But like, he's throwing SEC bigs out of the way like it's nothing and just gobbling up rebounds. It was extraordinary to watch him before he's ever played an official game in a Duke uniform look that dominant and making it look easy. Again, struggled to finish around the rim, and that is absolutely something that Duke and Shire are going to need to work on with him.
Sure.
You're not going to be thrilled with him shooting 6 of 17 on 2-pointers every single game. That's going to be an issue, but this is also against a very good Tennessee team. And again, it was still an outstanding performance from him. Duke still got the W. I was incredibly impressed. It's going to be a battle all season long between Boozer and Darryn Peterson and AJ Dibansa. We're going to talk about both those guys later in the show, continuing to look every bit the part of an incredible three-headed freshman class. But man, Boozer doing this against the Vols was otherworldly good.
And Andy, let's remember Duke had another exhibition game against a D1 opponent or against a Power 5 opponent. Boozer put up 13 in that one. He was more efficient, 12 of 19 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3, had 12 boards, 4 assists. And I thought that was a great performance. But dude, this one, absolutely, yes, less points, but this performance on Sunday night blew that one out of the water. Was very, very impressed. Keep in mind, no Malik Brown in this game for Duke, who is their best defender, and yet they still were physical enough to play with Duke. I think Patrick Ngongba has taken steps forward this year. Similarly, I guess we should say the guy he was going up against in Felix Okpara looked like he's taken a step forward for Tennessee as well. Very encouraged by that. Andy, I really curious to see what all Duke's going to do. Isaiah Evans, man, there was this one dunk attempt he took. I was like, did you see this?
Yes,
oh my
I was
word.
going to bring that up.
I was like, Isaiah Evans, I apologize. I was not familiar with your game in that way. Like, really, really interesting to see. Nick Hemenia in the starting lineup. Curious to see how Duke goes with all of that. One of the issues Duke has had the past couple years is like 2 years ago, it was like, y'all don't have a legit 5. It was flipped and they failed in that regard. Was it last year? One of the issues was like, I don't think y'all have a true point guard. And so you're going to struggle this year. I think, I still don't believe that much in Caleb Foster, but the combo of him and Caden Boozer, who is a true elite level point guard, I think is going to be plenty for Duke at that spot. And so, man, really encouraged by what I saw by the Blue Devils in a true road environment on Sunday night.
Yeah, me too. Foster didn't look great in this game. Evans looked better. I think we've all kind of been expecting that Evans was going to take the leap and be more of a well-rounded player than just a shooter. And again, that attacking a closeout and going up with 2 hands, trying to throw down a monster dunk. Like, I like that. I like that aggression from him. I think you can tell that was something he worked on, of like, hey, I need to be able to attack these closeouts and show more versatility to my game offensively. And if he's able to do that, I think that's going to be a huge boost for Duke. But on the flip side of things, we're talking about these top high-level freshmen. We kind of saw more of a freshman performance from Nate Ament. And I mean that in the sense that we saw some good and we saw some maybe not so good. And really what I thought we saw a lot of was maybe Tennessee not quite having down how they're going to utilize him yet, which is, of course, understandable. They haven't even played an official game yet. But Ament, he finishes with 14 points, 10 rebounds. I think anytime you get a double-double against a elite team like Duke, you feel pretty good about that. But it wasn't that strong of a performance. He came out of the gates good. He looked good early in this performance. Second half was a struggle. I think he didn't make his first field goal in the second half until like well into it. Finished again 14 and 10, 5 of 14 on just 2-pointers, and then 0 of 5 from 3. So 5 of 19 total from the field. We're going to see some of those kinds of performances. It felt to me like Tennessee was kind of letting himself create a lot, and I'm not sure that was something that he's going to be able to do super consistently. I know that was a big strength of his coming into the season, and maybe he'll find it, and maybe it was a lot of Duke making some really strong halftime adjustments against him. But I thought that the game plan with how Ament was operating offensively didn't look like it went all that well, particularly in the second half. And I'm curious if Tennessee will make adjustments on that, because he's obviously a very talented player, but we saw Duke seemingly effectively game plan against him in that second half.
And I think the adjustment that has to be made is you got to let this thing flow through Jacoby Gillespie. You paid him all this money to leave Maryland, come home to Tennessee, oh, by the way. And it was, Gillespie led Tennessee in scoring with 19, and that was great. But you talk about inefficiency. Andy, he took 21 shots to get there. You thought Ament's 14 on 19 shots was interesting. Gillespie, 19 points on 21 shots. He was 5 of 21 from the floor, 3 of 13 from 3. But you saw what Gillespie, that's not going to be the norm, right? He's going to hit his shots, but what you love is he's still 8 assists and just 2 turnovers. And when Tennessee can kind of get figured out what their offense is going to be, it's got to flow through him. It's got to function through him and then find spots to get a ment where he needs to be. Like when you saw that pick and roll game with Gillespie and Okpara, man, Okpara's developed these skills where he can roll off the screen a little bit and make a dribble or two and put it high off the glass. And you're getting buckets now from him. He had that 3, like no hesitation 3-pointer from Okpara. What are we doing? And so I think we didn't see Tennessee's most efficient offensive capability on Sunday night. They're going to get it figured out. And the good thing for Tennessee is as long as they score 35 points, they're usually going to win because the defense is that good. And so better days ahead for the Vols. But, man, another high-level, exciting environment there in Thompson Bowling. And, Andy, I really think we got an interesting 1-2 punch for Duke with Cam Boozer and Isaiah Evans together. We saw them go into that 2-man game a little bit, and I think that's where their bread is really going to be buttered this year.
Well, we're going to head next to the Bluegrass State, where Kentucky looked phenomenal, beating preseason number 1, while an hour west in Louisville, Kansas, and Darryn Peterson proved that the Jayhawks are back. We're going to get to all of that in just a second. But first, folks, college basketball is back, and I could not be more excited. The madness, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets, it can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. And that's why I use Game Time. It's the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see, that's what you pay. And honestly, it's faster, it's cheaper, and it's less stressful than any other way that I've bought in tickets. And I love that you can find the views from your seat right there in the app. And if you want to see Duke and Boozer's first official game, tickets are on sale for that matchup against Texas at the Spectrum Center on November 4th, $58 right now in Section 219. So folks, take the guesswork out of buying college basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, folks, continuing our conversation here, looking at what was an electric weekend of college basketball exhibition games. So happy that we're seeing more of these, that we got to see a true road environment between Duke and Tennessee. We haven't seen this for so long in college basketball, the days of the secret scrimmages, and now we get these types of incredible matchups. And we had a really, really good one between Purdue and Kentucky, 2 top 10 teams in the country. Kentucky rolls to a 78-65 victory. They're missing 2 presumed starters in this game in Jalen Lowe and Jaden Quaintance. So for them to get an easy, kind of comfortable 13-point win has a lot of fans fairly concerned about the Boilermakers, only scoring 65 points in this game, losing to a team that's below them in the rankings. Again, it is an exhibition game, and we have to take that with an incredible grain of salt. I'm certainly not as concerned about Purdue as many people are, but there is this narrative that is now building after Purdue's loss here. Isaac, where do you kind of buy in on what we saw from the Boilermakers in this game?
Andy, I loved it because this, you get home from work Friday, and for most people, it was like this kind of kicked off the weekend because it was an early Friday evening thing. I guess early afternoon for you, Andy, as you're trying to get home from WCC Media Days stuck in the airport. Good grief. But Andy, look, it is very fair to say I thought Kentucky's athleticism and length really, really got to Purdue. Yeah. And I think that was the issue, where Purdue is more of this old man YMCA. I'm just more savvy and veteran than you, and you're going to have it. And so I thought in that regard, there's something to consider there. But in terms of immediately while the game's going on, in the immediate aftermath, Andy, I was looking on social media and there was all this Purdue is overrated. I literally saw someone say, and I put this in our notes because I saw it and I was like, I'm going to quote this on the show. Purdue isn't close to being a top 10 team. that kind of stuff was flying around. I'm like, what are we talking about? First off, this is a true road game against another top 10 team in the nation.
Right.
And a reminder, as you said, a massive grain of salt, because this is an exhibition game. Andy, I compared it on Twitter, and I'll do it here on the show, to what happened 2 preseasons ago, where Purdue went down to Arkansas and lost in, another true road environment. Granted, it was an overtime, not it was a close one unlike this, but that was Zach Edey. That was Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer's sophomore year. Arkansas wins that game, Andy. That was the year that I think you called Arkansas being bad and were like just bagged on, which is kind of similar to this year, for being honest. Well, the Hogs went 16-17 that year, literally under 500. Meanwhile, Purdue is your national champion, if not for an otherworldly run by UConn yet again, right? So Purdue loses in the national championship game. So when Andy says massive grain of salt, that's what we're talking about. So yes, we learned, like Purdue did not look fantastic. But Andy, this game to me was more about Kentucky being better than I think we thought they were, even though we already thought they were good. And Purdue just getting housed on a Friday night on the road. Like, it happens. Yeah. Now, there's a couple of people I need to see more from, and we'll talk about that in terms of like Oscar Clough and Omer Meyer. But this is more about Kentucky than it is Purdue to me. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, you're great. That's the second point that I was going to make, is that I have Kentucky, I think, 5th in my preseason ranking. So like a 1 versus, like, losing to the 5th ranked team in the country on the road is not, like, doesn't feel as bad as 9th. So to me, I just think Kentucky's a little bit underranked. And yes, the missing 2 starters and still kind of kicking Purdue's teeth in is I can understand why that might feel a little extra not great for Purdue. But I think another part of this too is that you can't scout these teams yet. I mean, every roster is completely new. So if you're Matt Painter and Purdue's staff, like, you're trying to scout against a Kentucky team that you haven't seen them play together pretty much at all. And Matt Painter is one of the best coaches in college basketball. And I truly believe one of the best at making adjustments and at exploiting weaknesses. That's really hard to do in exhibition games. When you look at again, the loss to Arkansas, and then they make adjustments and they go out and have that tremendous season. Like, I think they're going to do that again, because they're going to be able to use the tape that they have on these teams and evaluate and make adjustments. And I'm not sure there's a coach that's better in college basketball at doing that than Matt Painter. So I think that plays a role as well. But yeah, I think the majority of this is just Kentucky's really, really, really good. And, they miss Jalen Lowe, their starting point guard, and Jasper Johnson comes in and looks fantastic at 15 points, just looked effortless for a true freshman out there. I thought he was outstanding. And I think a sign of the tremendous depth that this Kentucky team has. We talked about them being like, if you're ranking depth 1 through 15, which is not usually how you do it, but Kentucky's 1 through 15 is better than anybody's in college basketball. And I'm not sure that it's close. I think Kentucky's 1 through 10 is probably better than anybody in college basketball, although it's at least a little closer. But this team is so deep and so talented, and Mark Pope is going to continue to figure out how to put all the pieces together. But already we saw a team that looked polished, that looked prepared, and that looks like they're going to finish a lot higher than 9th in the AP standings.
And you bring in a national champion. That's encouraging, having Denzel Aberdeen. Andy, I was counting it up as you were talking. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players that finished with between 6 and 15 points in this game.
Wow.
I mean, that balance, and again, as you said, without Lower Quaintance, is kind of bonkers. And so, I mean, that's really encouraging. I think Kentucky's going to continue to do it. What I'm curious, who is it that goes to the bench when those guys eventually get back? We'll wait and see. But I think the other good thing is if Brandon Garrison and Mo Diabate can continue to play at that level, it means that he doesn't have to rush Quaintance back as quickly, because that's what everybody's been concerned about. Like, if those two guys can hold down the front court until basically SEC player the turn of the year, I think that puts Kentucky in even better shape. Andy, one more point on Matt Painter. I love what you said there. He talked about multiple times in the lead up, we want to go get our teeth kicked in. It's almost like he wanted to go lose. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm not worried about it. I'm not concerned, but I do love Kentucky. Let's travel an hour east or west, Andy, to Louisville, to the Yum Center, where Kansas comes in and wins 90-82. I love to see this happening. We've talked so much about Kansas and like, can they get back to being Kansas? If Darryn Peterson has anything to say about it with his 24 first half points, Andy, the Jayhawks are back.
Yeah, Darryn Peterson looked incredible in this game. 26 total. Didn't score as much in the second half, but didn't need to. Was completely dominant in the first half. Took over this basketball game, and again in a road environment against a very good Louisville team, and he just dominated the same way that Cam Boozer has dominated, the same way that Dibansa has dominated. Peterson looked outstanding in this contest. 9 of 15. He had 5 steals. Was very good on the defensive end of the floor. He had 4 boards, 2 assists. He did have 6 turnovers. If you want to nitpick, true freshmen turning the ball over when they have the ball in their hands a ton, the way that Peterson did. Obviously, he's going to want to narrow that scope down a little bit as the season goes on, but that's not something that's overly concerning to me. I'm sure those are things that Self and the staff are going to work with him on. But yeah, he looked outstanding in this game. And big shout out to Flory Badunga, who looked great as well. 14 points, 6 of 7 from the field in this one. I think the 2-man game between those two guys is enough that as long as the supporting cast isn't as bad as the supporting cast has been the last few years at Kansas, I think they're going to be in much better shape. And they should be better. I think Trey White's a great addition. I think Melvin Council's a good addition. We saw some good and some bad from those guys in this game against Louisville, but they just really need the rest of this roster to fill the roles that they need to fill and play solidly on both sides of the ball. And that combination of Peterson and Maduga is going to get it done for the Jayhawks. Also got to give a shout out to Elmarco Jackson. Yeah, because Elmarco Jackson missed all of last year, and Isaac and I were a little hard on him as a freshman because he struggled to kind of impact the game in the role that Bill Self gave to him. But in this game, he comes back, makes his return, 11 points in 27 minutes. He was only 1 of 2 from the field, which was kind of what we used to joke about with Jackson, is like he's not taking any shots, but he did go 9 of 9 from the free throw line. So you can't really complain about scoring 11 off the bench. If Jackson can be a big-time depth guard contributor for Kansas, that helps even more for Bill Self's team.
And same thing for Bryson Tiller. Great to see him getting back from injury and playing as well. And I think for those who maybe didn't, watch the game or fully check in on it, it was kind of one of those things where Bill Self, I mean, yes, they won the game, but they weren't really like playing to win the game. Like Peterson only played 10 minutes in the second half. 4 of those 6 turnovers were in the second half. He's just kind of whatever. And so, while some of these games were like both teams playing all out to win the whole time, Kansas really kind of didn't, like it was Jackson and Tiller that led the team in minutes along with Melvin Council in the second half. So there's that. Andy, let's switch to the home team where Ryan Conwell drops 26 points, but kind of similar to what we said with a couple of the Duke guys there, needed 20 and Tennessee as well, needed 21 shots to get there, 3 of 12 from 3. And so you love the 26 points. You don't love the inefficiency, but the same thing for Mikal Brown, Andy, 10 points, 2 of 15 from the field, 2 of 10 from 3. Those guys, those two took the vast majority of the shots from Louisville. And the problem is you got all these other dudes who can absolutely fill it up. Andy, one of our big takeaways on the Louisville side is that they need to find better offensive balance, similar to what we were saying that Kentucky did do well on Friday night.
And they will. I mean, again, it's an exhibition game. I think you want your freshmen to get out there and be, kind of trying to impact the game as much as he can. And so for Brown taking, in a game where he's struggling, he's probably not going to take 15 shots in the regular season, but he did in this game. Conwell, I feel like he might have some games similar to this in the regular season, but that's kind of what you get with Ryan Conwell. Like you bring him onto your team knowing that he's going to have some games where he takes 20 shot attempts. And like, that's sort of just, you take the good and the bad with that. I think if you're Louisville. No, they did not have Cason Pryor in this game, but it was great to see Ali Khalifa back. So excited for him getting his eligibility after the NCAA incredibly inexplicably denied his eligibility earlier in the offseason in Louisville. Went guns a-blazing at the NCAA and got him to back down on it. Not a super great performance from Khalifa, but more just happy that he's on the floor for this team. His passing ability as a big should be a huge weapon for Coach Kelsey and the Cards, and I think we're going to see that play out as the season goes on. Not a great shooting night for Louisville. They were under 30% from 3 on 38 attempts. That's probably going to stick for Louisville. That's what they like to do, is shoot a whole bunch of threes, but they're going to have better days shooting the rock. And I think we'll see that play out for Louisville. But this was a fun game. Got to learn a lot about these two programs. And again, I think it didn't have quite as much juice as some of the other games, but I think still a lot of fun to see how, in particular, these younger guys performed.
Well, Andy, it's a perfect segue from Kentucky and Louisville to say that Rick Pitino promised us 3-point shooting and guard play would not be an issue this year for the Johnnies, but they were. Saturday night against Michigan at home at MSG. We'll unpack that and another super freshman showdown that happened in the Delta Center in Salt Lake City. All coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, you guys, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand as you watch it, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score the next points to a fourth quarter comeback. Plus, you can even combine all your bets into a live same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. How about some regular season conference odds for some of these teams and a few others that we're talking about tonight? Duke is at plus 160 to win the ACC. Houston, who beat Mississippi State in a very Houston-Mississippi State exhibition game on Sunday, is plus 165 to win the Big 12. Florida plus 250 in the SEC, followed by Kentucky at plus 410. You believe in what Kentucky did to Purdue? You might want to get in on that action. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So go ahead, head on over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Andy, let's head off to the world's most famous arena where Dusty May and Michigan were visiting St. John's, an overtime game. You love to see it, especially in exhibitions. In fact, both of these games that we're about to talk about, one did go to overtime. The other almost did. Michigan wins 96-94 on the road. Yaxel Lendeborg did everything Dusty May brought him in to do, Andy. 25-10, 4 assists, and 2 of 4 from 3. What did you like about what you saw from Yaxel along with the rest of his front court mates?
Well, the broadcast in the Duke-Tennessee game brought this up, and I think it's a compelling point to keep mentioning. Is there's 2 players in college basketball last year who led their team in like all of the major statistical categories, and everybody always talked about Cooper Flagg because he was one of them, and the insane rarity to do that at Duke. Yaxel Lendeborg did that at UAB as well, and obviously UAB does not have the same talent level on the roster as Duke does, but sure. That's still a good team, and Yaxel was their dominating force last year, and he comes to Michigan, and again, we shouldn't be shocked that he's out there putting up 25 and 10, that he's getting 4 assists, that he's shooting the ball well from 3. Like, I thought he looked outstanding, and I thought Michigan's entire front court looked really good in this game. Defensively, they had their hands full with Zuby Ejiofor, but he was 6 of 12 from the field. It wasn't his strongest shooting performance. He did go 12 of 13 from the line, but again, a huge caveat in any exhibition game, and we have cited free throws in this throughout the show, is that usually they're not fouling players out as quickly. Sometimes they give them 6 fouls. Sometimes they don't foul players out at all. So you want to take that a little bit with a grain of salt. But we saw Michigan have a dominant front court last year, and it wasn't just Danny Wolf. It was their whole front court that was truly excellent last year. And I think we're going to see that again this year. Morez Johnson Jr. came off the bench for Michigan, 15 and 8 and 2 blocks on 5 of 8 shooting. Ade Mara, the UCLA transfer, 13 points, 5 boards, 4 assists for him. He's 5 of 10 from the fields. Not great necessarily, but in 24 minutes, if Ade Mara is putting up 13, 5, and 4 night in and night out for Michigan, that is scary. Like, this team is going to be really, really good, and their guards are good, and we'll talk about Elliot Cadeau, and he kind of had an Elliot Cadeau type performance for better or worse for Michigan in this game, but this team is going to be one of the best front courts in all of college basketball, and Yaxel is just such a jackknife, do-it-all type player, and we saw that play out against a good St. John's team.
Jackknife, huh?
Yes.
Swiss Army knife, not in the lexicon.
Yeah, whatever, whatever kind of knife you want him to be, he can be.
Hey, look, yeah, Andy, I think your point's really good there. Similar to last year, the thing is, hey, we know we're going to get some great stuff out of Michigan's front court. The big question and the level of their success is going to be determined by Elliot Cadeau and Namari Burnett and Roddy Gale, and how well that trio can do to help lead this team from the backcourt perspective. Night in and night out for Michigan, that's what we're going to watch for. You said Elliot Cadeau had an Elliot Cadeau game. Yes, 9 points, 9 assists, but 5 turnovers, and he fouled out, right? Yeah. Like, that is the yin and the yang that you're going to get with him. And Coach May knew that, bringing him in, but that's what we're going to be watching for with him. Andy, I said it in the teaser coming in, but Coach Patino said, we're going to shoot better. And Coach Patino said, we ain't worried about point guard play. Andy, I words are great, but 4 of 23 from 3, 17.4%. And the guy that he at one point told us was going to be the next great point guard came off the bench in this game and had a grand total of 2 points, and that's Ian Jackson. Andy, what do we expect from St. John's here? I don't know what to do.
Yeah, this was a kind of a frighteningly bad performance from St. John's guards. Again, the caveat will always exist that these are exhibition games.
Sure.
But like this was not great. Like Sinone had 5 fouls in 14 minutes. Like sure, he had 14 points, 5 of 6 from the free throw line, but only 1 of 4 from 3. Osiah Sellers had 5 fouls in 8 minutes. He was minus 11 in an overtime game in 8 minutes. Like that is very problematic. And Sellers, like the biggest kind of selling point for him was the 3-point shooting. And he only took 2 shots in this game. He was 0 of 1. He didn't score a point at all. Again, in just those 8 minutes. And then as you mentioned, Jackson, I mean, he played 21 minutes, but he did not start. He only scored 2 points. He was 1 of 8 from the field. He was 0 of 4 from 3. And then even Dylan Darling, transfer from Idaho State, who kind of was getting some buzz of like, hey, maybe Dylan Darling is going to be the guy who kind of saves St. John's. Like he was okay. He played 31 minutes, which is, I mean, far more than all the other guards on this team, in part because of fouls, in part because Jackson just wasn't very good. But Darling only had 7 points. Like 7 points in 31 minutes is not going to get it done. I mean, this St. John's team scored 94 points, and Darling, Jackson, Sellers combined for 9. They combined for 9 of St. John's 94 points. And then again, Sinone had 14, but that is significantly concerning for St. John's. Again, they'll get some of this stuff ironed out.
Yes.
But this was I mean, 4 of 23 is not, if they shoot anywhere, if they shoot 20% from 3, they win this game. I mean, they needed to make 1 more 3 and they win this basketball game. So I'm not firing off the alarm bells too much on the Johnnies, but I certainly was not encouraged by the backcourt for this team. The front court looked great. Backcourt, not so much.
Yeah, it made me feel very much better about my UConn winning the Big East prediction, Andy. I'll say that much. But yeah, I mean, and it was this, you know, we talked a lot about expecting to see, like, we think Bryce Hopkins will start at the 4. We think Dylan Mitchell will back him up. But when you've got Mitchell, Hopkins, and Zuby, you ain't expecting to hit a whole bunch of 3. Like that's not going to pay off in terms of Coach Pitino's promise to make a bunch of 3s when you got Mitchell who don't take them. Ejiofor, who took a couple, but I mean, it's just, I don't know. They're going to get things ironed out, but I was not necessarily all that encouraged by what I saw from St. John's, despite the fact that they went to over, you know, it's like, whatever, that's great, but we'll see. Andy, let's head west to Salt Lake City. Where
I want to say something very quickly on the St. John's game, actually. Just from a playing time perspective, Dylan Mitchell played 38 minutes in this basketball game, and Bryce Hopkins played over 40 minutes in this game. Rick Pitino playing those 2 guys that much, obviously overtime, so that's why it's over 40, but that is a lot of playing time for those 2 guys. I don't know if it was just a product of the specific matchup or something they liked about it, or if their depth is a concern there, but yeah, I don't know if those guys can play 38 minutes a game going forward. That might be an issue for them too.
Yeah, that's curious decision. Andy, now we head west to Salt Lake City to the Delta Center, where BYU was hosting North Carolina, and a matchup of 2 more of the highest profile freshmen in the nation. Obviously, AJ DeBansa at BYU and Caleb Wilson at North Carolina. And Andy, I think the thing from this one, unlike Duke and Tennessee, is both of these young men delivered in a massive way on Friday night.
Yeah, saw really strong performances from both. DeBansa, 18 points, 8 boards. He also looked very good on the defensive end, 3 blocks and 3 steals or stocks. If you combine blocks and steals, 6 stocks is an incredible game of basketball. And DeBansa, again, I think being able to deliver on both ends of the floor here. He didn't have 30 like he did against Nebraska, but certainly I think he would take the W, which they did not get against Nebraska, but they did get here. And then Caleb Wilson. Excellent. 20-point double-double, 22 points, 10 boards, 3 blocks for Caleb Wilson. He really impressed me. I think it's hard to pick which of the freshmen impressed me the most because Boozer's performance was otherworldly, but he's one of the top 3 freshmen in the country. Like Caleb Wilson's a little bit lower on the rankings, and he came out and had a dominant 2-way game on both ends of the floor for a North Carolina team. And you and I were talking before we hit the record button, like it's been a while since Carolina had like a truly great one and done player. I mean, they had Drake Powell last year. They've had a few others over the last, decade-ish or so, but like this Caleb Wilson might be that guy. Like, again, it's, we don't want to make any bold claims too early, but he looked excellent against a good BYU team. I was really encouraged by Wilson and really encouraged by the front court, the really, really long and tall front court that North Carolina ran out in this game.
And even more so, Andy, because, we've been talking about players that weren't playing in these exhibition games. North Carolina still is without Luka Bogovac, who finally got his NCAA clearance, but apparently there's some kind of road bump still at North Carolina internally. We don't know officially what that is or what's going on, but what that means is Carolina rolled out the jumbo lineup with Jaron Stevenson that we saw Alabama use a lot when Stevenson was there. And so Carolina was 6'10", 7 foot at the wing and in the 2 front court slots, which is interesting because BYU is a little bit undersized, but Andy, Keba Keita, he don't care because that dude is an uber athlete. He's built like a freaking rock wall and just did things he needed to do. But yes, Carolina, as you said, last year, the big concern was how undersized they were, with Van Allen Lubin at 6'8", 6'9", and Jalen Withers at 6'9" as their starting front court by the time it was all said and done, have grown all over the map with getting RJ Davis and Elliot Cadeau out, who are also undersized. And so that's a feather in the cap for North Carolina now. Andy, speaking of shooting poorly from 3, these 2 teams, North Carolina was 4 of 19 and BYU was 5 of 25. So it was a pretty ugly contest in that regard. I grew weary of watching all that happen. But high level competition between these 2 teams. Loved it coming down to a last minute try by North Carolina to go to overtime and BYU ending that at the rim against an athletic Seth Trimble. I would just say I felt encouraged by both of these teams and what I saw. Tough night for Richie Saunders with Seth Trimble on him. Better days are ahead there as well.
Yep, I would agree. I think for BYU, it's just figuring out what they want Saunders' role to be. They have 2 very ball-dominant players in Rob Wright and AJ Dibansa, and I think figuring out how to get Saunders involved so that he's not just standing on the perimeter looking for open threes. I mean, again, obviously Seth Trimble is a very good defensive player, and he won't necessarily face that kind of scrutiny every game. But if Saunders is not going to be able to deliver the way that he has in the past, that's going to be harmful for BYU. I think they'll figure it out. I think, but this is a challenge for Coach Kevin Young to figure out, what do I do with a roster that maybe has more ball dominant players than they're used to having. Folks, that's going to wrap it up for us today here on the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. So much fun to have actual basketball to talk about. And next week, we'll have actual basketball to talk about as the games will officially count in the standings. This time next week, as we're recording, we'll be previewing some real basketball games on Monday, November 3rd. I cannot wait. But folks, we're going to wrap it up today. We're going to have some more of our team previews coming your way later this week. A couple big teams we still haven't gotten to yet, so we'll have those for you. And then we'll have our Big 12 conference preview on Friday, the final conference preview before the season gets underway next week. As always, we want to say apologies to the Lawyer family, a little negative on Purdue. Let's go Wild Popes there since they got the W. Cheers to the McBruins. And until Tuesday, peace out.